Welcome, everyone. Jupiter's CROCK, episode number 12, Revelations of Spartacus, Blood and Sand. We're getting to the end here. I am joined today by Ronan.
Yes, you are. You are joined by me.
And someone who we feel bad for the next two episodes. Spartacus is going to have to do some extreme plotting through the next two episodes to get us through this labyrinth of treachery and double crosses.
I'm expecting to have help from my friends, especially because I've watched Revelations a week ago, and someone was not available to record.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally always able to record, but there's this one guy with a job that will not let up. Just quit your job, Ronan, and just
Fucking
do this.
Losers with their jobs.
Yeah, how dare you provide a service?
How dare you do something with your time other than be at our beck and call? And with that, let's get into episode 12, Revelations. Steve, take it away.
So, first and foremost, we were wrong about last episode. At the end of the last episode, we all kind of agreed that that was the beginning of Spartacus, the rebellion leader. Spartacus, the man who wants to be free and to free all the slaves. We were wrong, because that character, that Spartacus, is not the Spartacus that we follow through this episode here. Anyways, this starts with Crixus is killing someone in the arena. He is back in a champion of Capua form. We see Salonius. Good Salonius is chained up underground. In the previous episode, he was framed for the murder of the magistrate, and so he's like just, I don't know, wearing like rags and chained to the wall, and Batiatus goes to mock him, and so they have a back and forth. And Salonius actually asked one of the questions that we had a few episodes ago: was Asher always working for Batiatus? And Batiatus says, "Yep, Asher's loyalty to me never wavered." And...
Stop trying to fuck my wife. Oh, what's hilarious about this scene with Batiatus and Salonius is I love that Salonius refers to himself as Good Salonius. It's like, perhaps Good Salonius will fare better. Like, no.
I mean, to a certain extent, you got to respect the game. You know, I'm about to die, but never forget Good Salonius.
Yeah,
yes.
I like that he puts up a fight, which we'll get to.
Yep. So, Salonius has been sentenced to death via gladiator, and so he is going to fight Spartacus. But before the fight, Batiatus and Salonius have this back and forth. And at the end of it, Salonius basically, he's just accepting it. Like, he knows he's been beaten, and he tells Batiatus, "Well played. I underestimated you." And Batiatus, his ego is sky high now. He says, "Yeah, you're not the first or the last person to die for making that mistake." So Salonius gets sent out to fight Spartacus, and then we see Spartacus waiting for the fight. And he keeps trying to get an audience with Batiatus. And all week long, he's been trying to get some of Batiatus' time, and Batiatus keeps blowing him off, and Spartacus is very upset that he can't get any sort of one-on-one time with Batiatus. And Doctori tells him, "Hey, you are the slave, he is the master, like, you don't get to make demands of him." And Spartacus says, "Yeah, you're right. I've made a lot of mistakes as champion. Know that I intend to fix them." And then he goes out to fight Salonius. Yes, Spartacus has a lot of ominous lines in the last few episodes. Like, "I intend to fix my mistakes soon."
Well, I love that
yes,
look
that I am myself again.
That Doctori gives him too. He's like, he's just eyeing him. Like, Doctori's thinking something's up. Something weird is going on.
He's already encountered Spartacus making an escape attempt once, and so he knows this motherfucker is Weasley and you can't really trust him to go full on into the gladiator life. So yeah, he knows.
Yep. But Spartacus goes out to fight Salonius, and Salonius actually, puts up a fight. Spartacus, compliments him, like, you're not without skill. But then it's, obviously Salonius cannot keep up with Spartacus, and so Spartacus has got him injured. all Spartacus has to do is hit the death blow. But before the beheading happens, Spartacus and Salonius have a little chat, and Salonius says, if you're here to get justice for the magistrate, you're killing the wrong person. It was Batiatus that killed him. And Spartacus says, don't worry, Batiatus is right behind you. And at that point, Salonius smiles and laughs because he knows that Batiatus is fucked, and he's during his imminent death, he has that happy thought of Batiatus being killed, carrying him off to the afterlife. But Spartacus beheads him. That is the unfortunate end of good Salonius. One of the I don't know how we feel about Salonius. I feel like we're all very pro Salonius in this group.
I like Salonius.
Yeah, he was. Especially, he doesn't get like this rewatching of the show has kind of, because I swore he had more stuff to do in the first show, and he really doesn't. Too. Yeah, he really doesn't.
Salonius is like one of the big co-stars of Gods of the Arena. He's not a big part of Blood and Sand.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't have that. It's like, really, they flesh out his character in the prequel season, which, does kind of make like that whole, oh, well, I underestimated you, Batiatus. I didn't figure you'd do all of this. He really should have known better with the knowledge of the prequel series that, oh no, this motherfucker's crazy. He will do all of this.
Yep. So, those are the fights that we see. Crixus wins his battle. Spartacus wins his the incredibly intense fight against good Salonius. Alithia shows up, and the big story of the episode is Legatus Glaber is finally going to come back, and Xena and Batiatus are still controlling her, and they're basically forcing her to convince her husband to give Batiatus patronage. There's a scene where Batiatus is like getting the ludus and the villa ready to receive Legatus Glaber, and Alithia shows up saying, "Oh yes, my husband is coming to grant you patronage like you've always wanted. But he insists he's not coming to your villa. He insists that you meet him at the gates of the city." And Batiatus is like, he's a little bothered, but he's like, it's fine. We'll walk on down there. I'll greet him at the city gates. And when's he arrive? Now. And so Batiatus gets this look on his face like, you motherfucker. But he can't do anything to Alithia at this point. But he looks so fucking angry that Alithia is continuing to fuck him over despite all of the dirt that they have on Alithia. But anyways, Batiatus goes out to meet the Legatus, and Legatus Glaber continues to treat Batiatus like shit, and Glaber basically tells him, I've got important business to deal with, I'll get to you when I get to you. And Batiatus is like, oh no, I'll go with you, it's fine, we got a lot to talk about. Glaber says, no, just wait for me and I will get to you when I get to you. Batiatus is pissed, but there's nothing he can do, so he goes back to his villa.
This is really showing the standing in Roman society as well, how Batiatus is really striving to sort of be someone in the upper crust, the elite, where Legatus would respect him and honor his time. But Legatus just looks at him like he's nothing, because technically, even though Batiatus is a Roman, he's sort of like a citizen of the Empire of Rome, he's not on the same level as Glaber.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Asher, because this episode is all over the place, and it's been a week since I watched it, so I'm all over the place as well. But we see Asher, and Asher is getting dressed in like proper Roman clothes. Like Batiatus is actually like rewarding Asher for his service, so he's giving him new clothes. Asher is moving out of the gladiator cells, and he is actually going to live in the villa with the important people in the Ludus now. There's a scene where Asher is like leaving the cells for the last time, and he talks to Crixus, and Crixus is continuing to shit on him. because Asher might have the mark of the Brotherhood, but he was never a gladiator, and so finally he is being kicked out of the place where gladiators live. And Asher's like, that's fine. I'm gonna be just okay. And then Asher does the most dickish thing that I think anyone in this series does, which is when he's talking to Batiatus and he's being rewarded for his service to the House of Batiatus. Batiatus tells him, hey, have wine, have women, whatever you want, I will reward you. And Asher says, I want Navia. Because I don't even remember if we mentioned it a few episodes ago, but Asher saw Crixus and Navia having sex. Yeah. And he just kept it to himself. Asher's always collecting information. He's always keeping it in his head to cash in whenever he needs it. And so he tells Batiatus, I want Navia. And so this obviously affects the relationship between Navia and Crixus, because when it's their time to get together again, Navia tells him that we were living a dream, and now we have to wake up. I'm a slave. I have no agency. I have been given away.
Xena's mad. Xena's mad at Batiatus for doing this because she doesn't like Asher, and she, obviously at this point she doesn't know that Navia's been sleeping with Crixus, but she thought that she was still like a virgin and she was saving her for the perfect man and stuff, and she feels like disgusted that Batiatus did this.
Yep.
Batiatus don't care. She's just a disposable slave as far as he is concerned.
But important for the end of this episode is Navia does not tell Crixus who she has been given to. She leaves Crixus having to guess. We also see Spartacus and Mira hanging out. And when I said earlier that we were wrong about last episode being the beginning of Spartacus the Rebel Leader, well, this is what I meant, because we find out that Spartacus gives no fucks about what happens to the Ludus or the other slaves or anyone else. At this point, he is not trying to lead a slave rebellion. He is just trying to kill Batiatus. This whole last week, he has just been asking for a one-on-one with Batiatus so that he could kill him when he gets the chance. And he doesn't care. He doesn't care if he gets killed afterwards. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what happens to himself. As long as Batiatus dies, Spartacus will be okay. He just wants Batiatus to be dead no matter what. And Mira informs him, "Oh, hey, maybe I should catch you up on Roman law a little bit. If a slave hurts their master, if a slave kills their master, all of the slaves will be put to death, whether they had anything to do with it or not." And so Mira tells Spartacus, if you kill Batiatus, you're killing me, you're killing all of the other gladiators, everyone else will die. And Spartacus is like, sucks
don't
to be
give
you.
a fuck.
Don't give no fucks.
Honey Badger, don't give a fuck.
And so,
how does it make you feel about his character at this point? Because I will say a slight criticism I will have. I'm sorry, a slight criticism I will have is at this point I don't feel like this is what Spartacus would do, and it's a little weird to me that he's just kind of like blowing off all of his quote-unquote brothers. Like, he's sentencing all of his brothers to death, essentially, without telling them what his plan is or anything at this point. And I don't think that would be what Spartacus would do. Honestly, I feel it's a little weird.
No,
I think he would.
tracks.
I think at this point, Spartacus is at the lowest of the lows, because at this point he has had 2 lives taken away from him. He was a free man, and that was taken away, and he was made a slave. And then he accepted his fate, and he became a champion, and he reveled in the life of a gladiator, and now he knows he can't do that anymore either. Like, he has been robbed of his life twice now. I think he is just he is like at his lowest point right now. I would even argue at this point he's even lower than after his wife died, because now he's lost his wife and the life that he tried, the replacement life that he tried to build. I think he is just so depressed that he does not care anymore, and he's going to get pulled out of that. But I think at this point, I'm completely fine with him not caring about anything or anyone but revenge.
Yeah, it tracks because you mentioned like, oh, well, he would be sentencing his brothers to death. He never bought into the whole bullshit idea of like, oh, the gladiators are a brotherhood. That bullshit that Crixus throws around. He never bought into that shit. Rightfully so. Like he doesn't like any of these people. The only person in the Ludus at this point, like there are two people in the entire House of Batiatus that I think Spartacus would give any fucks for, Mira and Del Torre. That's it. He doesn't give a fuck about anyone else in that place, like in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, it totally tracks that he wouldn't care. It's like well, sucks for you.
My point is,
it's not a good character thing for him to do, but that is how he is.
See, and I can see your guys' points and how they sort of turn it back around where he changes his mind makes more sense here. But to me, before he finds out that Aurelia is sort of in the Ludus, he told Vero, he promised Vero he would take care of his wife, and it just seems so weird to me as we get into this episode and the next episode where he just threw that out the window to the point where he's like, I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff or honoring what I promised Vero I was going to do. I don't care. I'm just going to have everybody murdered. If he was dead, then he wouldn't be able to take care of her.
That was figuring out that Batiatus was like the one who ordered his wife to be killed. That was before that point. It's like all bets are off at this point. It's like
you could also argue at this point that since he knows that Batiatus is a liar and a murderer, like how does Spartacus know that Batiatus was ever going to deliver any of Spartacus's winnings?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. To me, it played a little weird, but I see your points.
So let's talk about what actually changes Spartacus's mind. Spartacus finally gets a one-on-one meeting with Batiatus, and Spartacus is like the whole time is like, I fucking this little salad fork or knife or something, and he just keeps looking at it. And he's gonna go and get it. He's gonna stab Batiatus. He gives no shits about what's gonna happen to the rest of the slaves. But then Aurelia comes in. And Aurelia, much like Vero, Aurelia has essentially sold herself into slavery to pay off Vero's debts, which is stupid as fuck. Like I don't know why Aurelia cares about these debts anymore, because Vero is gone. The owner of these debts is gone. If she was actually now being hounded for her husband's debts, that's not explained in the series. All that's explained is she wanted to pay off her husband's debts. She absolutely refused the money from Spartacus, refused the money from Batiatus. She wants to put in an honest day's slave work to pay off Vero's debts. And seeing Aurelia is what stops Spartacus from going through the plan. And the cover story that he gives Batiatus about what Spartacus has been hounding Batiatus for the last week, requesting these one-on-ones constantly. Spartacus just says, "Oh, I just wanted to make sure that Aurelia was being taken care of, like we discussed." And Batiatus is like, "Oh, well, that worked out. Now you have your answer." So Spartacus does not go through with his decision to kill Batiatus. Thoughts?
Thoughts, opinions, all ties back into what we were just kind of talking about. Like he's fine with it. Then he finds out she's there, and that kind of, that does affect everything you were saying. That does affect the plan because it's like, oh well, yeah, okay, I did promise Vero this, so yeah. That also goes really kind of what against Matt. What Matt was saying, he didn't realize that she was there until right now. So like that kind of works more into what we were saying.
You shut your mouth. By the way, I'm getting real sick. Yeah, I'm getting real sick of clearance rack Steve over here. The guy next to Steve wearing the same shirt and a bowler hat and the beard. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah. Fuck that guy. What's this guy's name? D&W Jackson. Fuck you. You stole my outfit. I have more money than you. All right, so let's talk about Glamour. Because I think all the pieces are in place. We've talked about what Spartacus is up to, what Crixus and Navy. Son of a bitch! Well, I'm out of this hand. We've talked about what all the other players are up to. So what happens with Glaber? So Glaber shows up and he is just not impressed with Batiatus at all. Like he's only going and humoring Batiatus because his wife Alithia is telling him to do it. And Alithia, by the way, is going to leave. Like, she is going to go back to Rome with her husband, and so she is thinking, oh, finally I get to be out from under Xena's thumb. So she is telling, she thinks that she's won. She weathered the storm. And
Xena
so
looks worried, too,
again.
when she says that to
Yeah.
her. Like, I'm going back to Rome. Oh, you are? What?
Yeah. Xena is like,
Like
I'm
that
gonna,
never
I'm gonna
entered
lose.
into their minds of her going back home. Somehow that just never never entered their thoughts that was the thing
Nope.
she could do.
So anyways, like the ludus has been prepared for Glaber. Glaber is very upset that basically Spartacus has been put on a pedestal now. And Batiatus, to his credit, like, fights back against Glaber. It's like, hey, I turned this motherfucker into a god. He is a legend. And Glaber says, oh, a legend, is that so? Let's test that. And so Glaber has Spartacus fight multiple soldiers from Glaber's, troops. And Spartacus beats them all. He's fighting them like 1-on-4 or 5 at some point. And he beats them all
With
at
a
some
training
point, like,
sword, no less.
yeah, with a wooden practice sword. At some point, the blade of the practice sword breaks, and so he is just beating motherfuckers to death with like the hilt of this sword, and it's awesome. Spartacus is so fucking good in this. But then when he's done, Spartacus just turns and looks at Glaber and Batiatus, and he just stands there like, now what? Just dick on the table. I fucking did it. And Glaber notices. Glaber notices, well, you know what? Maybe Batiatus is right. Maybe Batiatus has broken Spartacus, because Glaber notes that when Spartacus looks at Batiatus, he kind of bows his head a little bit. He bows his head in deference. And Glaber says, if I were to grant you patronage, would he show me that same respect? And Batiatus says, yeah, if you grant me patronage, like, basically my men are your men. And so Batiatus, sorry, too many people in this fucking episode. Glaber looks at Spartacus and he says, kneel. And he's got this big shit-eating grin on his face, because the man that fucked him over so many episodes ago is basically like his to do what he wants with. If he grants patronage, he will control the man that kind of fucked his life over in the beginning. And Spartacus doesn't immediately kneel. There's this scene where Spartacus is looking around, making eye contact with people. The delay is, Batiatus is kind of like, Spartacus, you better fucking kneel down there. Don't you fucking start. The delay goes on long enough for Glaber's shit-eating grin to go away, and he's thinking, Jesus fuck, Spartacus is still being fucking defiant to me. But Spartacus says legatus, and then he kneels. And so now Batiatus has patronage, something that he's wanted for episodes and episodes and episodes. Unfortunately for Batiatus, Asher goes to put the moves on Navia, and Crixus
I love that
sees
look.
this, it just fucking screams.
Oh my god, the look that Asher gives Crixus, he just like rubs his neck and he looks and he just grins. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and Crixus screams, and he runs and tackles Asher and starts beating the shit out of him. And so Spartacus and the other gods have to pull Crixus off. And this makes Glaber, like, take away his patronage. He says, you told me that, you're in command of all this, but no, your house is just a bunch of animals. I want nothing to do with this. And so Glaber goes to leave. And Batiatus tells him, like, let's talk about this, and Glaber says, no, we're done, and goes to walk away, and Batiatus yells, do not fucking turn your back on me. And Glaber turns around like, excuse me, would you like to say that again? And Batiatus is like, I tried to do this the nice way, I tried to buy your patronage, now I'm just going to control you like I control your wife. And he brings out Licinia's hand, like, in just this box, this, like, gray-fleshed, withered hand with, like,
rotting away.
Yeah, with Licinia's ring on it. And Glaber sees this as like, you killed Licinia? You are admitting to the murder of Licinia? And Batiatus is like, oh, no. Your wife killed Licinia. And Alithia looks at Glaber, he's like, oh, sweetheart, I would never do such a thing. And Glaber just slaps her across the face, because
Reach
Glaber
back like
knows.
a pimp and you slap the hoe, cause the ball is in the hood. He did not buy it for 1 second.
Yeah,
Instantly
Glaber
knew it's like,
knows
she
who
did
his
this.
wife is. Glaber immediately knew that, yes, Alithia committed this crime, and then Batiatus says, we've got the rest of the body. Sure would be unfortunate if the remains of Lycinia turned up at your house. And so now Glaber has no choice. Like, he will be framed, he or his wife or both will be framed for the murder of the cousin of Marcus Crassus, the richest man in all of Rome, if he does not bow to Batiatus's whims.
No, couldn't Glaber just wait this out? Couldn't Glaber say, okay, fine, I'll be a patron to you, and then, like, in a month, when it's just a skeleton that's left, be like, fuck you, and I'm going to take down your entire house.
He also could have just said, he also could have just, said, I don't believe you. Even if I do believe you, you currently have Lycinia's body. I'm just going to arrest you for their murder, and it'll be
He's got
my
a bunch
word
of
against
guards
yours.
with him. I mean, some of them might have broken noses, but they can just grab him. He's got authority.
Yeah, apparently, but I mean, it's also established, I guess, with the case of Salonius, if you're found with the body, people would just assume that you killed them no matter what. It's a little weird. I feel like Glaber could have pulled rank and gotten out of this, but whatever. He chooses to go along with Batiatus' plan. He tells
Batiatus tells him beforehand, like, look, because Glaber's like, what am I going to get out of this? Like, why would I even bother doing this? And he entices them with the fact that, hey, my gladiators are so awesome that the crowd is going to be, like, singing your name. They're going to be chanting it, basically, and you're going to become huge because of all of my gladiators. Yeah, so maybe that's a little part of it.
Sponsor us. We're going to put up big Legatus Glaber billboards. We're going to tattoo Glaber on Spartacus's ass cheek. It's like, people are going to know.
You're going to be on the Wheaties box.
Yeah, somehow, some unexplained way, the goodwill towards Batiatus's gladiators will be transferred to Glaber. And, anyways, Glaber says, fine, you know what, you've got my patronage. I'm going to leave some of my men here. A detachment of my troops will remain at the Ludus. If you need anything else, talk to Alithia, because I'm not taking her with me anymore. And so Glaber just leaves Alithia there. And Alithia turns and looks at Xena and Batiatus, and she is just horrified.
And Asher, they're all there just staring at her.
Free. Yes. Speaking of Asher, after he got attacked by Crixus, he said to everyone, I knew when I first fucked Naevia for the first time, I realized she wasn't a virgin. Now we know who she was already fucking. And so that pisses off Xena. And Xena goes crazy in this episode.
Lucy Laws is so good in this.
Yeah, she starts just beating the shit out of Naevia, gets some scissors and cuts her hair off. And Naevia, for her part, basically says, finally, for the first time in the series, stands up to Xena and tells her, Crixus never loved you, blah, blah, blah.
So, quick question here. Very early on, a few episodes back, I guess, maybe 5 or 6 at this point, we asked the question, did we think Xena was actually in love with Crixus this entire time? Do you feel after watching this episode and then sort of the finale that she was actually in love with him the entire time? Because Naevia specifically tells her he never loved you.
Yeah, I think she is, but kind of in a stalkery way. If she really loved Crixus, there's a lot more she could have done for him. I think, she could have set him free, could have given him a life, but instead I think she wanted to... What am I doing here? All right, I guess I'm going on.
Clearance rack Steve is baiting us here. I'm following here.
I took the bait. I feel like it was less love and more of she wanted to have the best toys, and also if she couldn't have them, no one could. Because she was never, for all of the love she claims to have for Crixus, she was perfectly okay with him just being a slave forever.
Well, it's that love in sort of a way of incredibly twisted, not at all balanced power dynamic would go for her, because exactly like what Steve was saying, it's she's the master, he's the slave, So I don't think it's...
Come on, twos.
But part of the issue is Lucy Lawless's character. She wouldn't have had the power to free Crixus. Batiatus would have been the one that would have had to free Crixus, and she would...
Oh, fuck you!
Wow!
I got the two.
Down goes clearance rack Steve on the river. Love it. Yeah, so she wouldn't have been able to actually, like, free him, and I don't think she wanted to try to have a conversation with her husband as to, why we should free Crixus. This guy who's bringing us fame and glory to our Ludus, why would we do something like that? So... I don't know. I don't know what else she really could have done for him, honestly.
No, it's not so much like, she could have freed him. It's like, yeah, she would have never done that because then in that instance, that's a toy she doesn't get to play with anymore. It's like, we're thinking about this in our modern day light of love and affection. We that's not the dynamic that's going on here within proper Roman times, where it's like this is a person who literally views Crixus, this gladiator, has nothing more than a plaything that she's to use the more crude term, she's just dick drunk for. That's all it is. So
maybe she gets her power from believing that Crixus actually loves her, because early on, after she has sex with him at one point, she says you're mine, you're only mine, Crixus, and no one else can sort of have you, sort of thing. She gets super jealous when Alithia is trying to get on him. So I wonder if it's more she feels she thinks that he loves her, and because of that, that's where she sort of gets her, I don't know, sadistic jollies or something. And then when she realizes, no, he never actually loved me at all. Basically, he's just a glorified sex toy with no feelings towards me. Then that's when she goes, kind of splash of cold water in her face.
So a big important thing about Xena that we haven't talked about yet is when Navia tells Crixus that, hey, it's over, I've been given away. This is happening as Crixus is being taken to fuck Xena. And when Xena and Crixus get there, suddenly Xena starts having pains, and you find out that Xena is pregnant. And Batiatus is over the fucking moon. He's finally happy that he's going to be a father. But all right, so what are we talking about? Crixus has freaked out. So how does this all resolve? Batiatus has succeeded in manipulating Glaber and Alithia into getting patronage. And so the end of the episode is guards. The Legatus's troops have filled the Ludus. There are soldiers everywhere now. Crixus has been chained up outside, and Navia, who has had the shit kicked out of her like Xena, goes out and has this emotional moment with Crixus. I mean, Crixus is crying. Crixus is like, I have destroyed us. Like, I am so fucking dumb. I shouldn't have done that. Like, we're never going to see each other again now because Navia is being sent away, and she doesn't know where she's being sent away.
Just like Spartacus's wife, Sura.
Yep. So Crixus is bawling because he thinks he's ruined his chance with Navia. Navia gets pulled away after her moment with Crixus, but before she leaves, she tells Oenomaus, Doctore, Barca wasn't set free. Barca was killed, and that sets up Doctore's, the next part of his character development, because his faith in the House of Batiatus is slowly being shaken little by little.
Did I tell you guys, by the way, when I listened to one of the audio commentary tracks a couple episodes back, whatever, Oenomaus was always known as Doctore. That's what everyone called him throughout the show. And Stephen DeKnight said that was intentional because they did not want anybody to call him Oenomaus at first and realize, Oenomaus is going to survive historically he survives and leaves, and so they wanted the mystery of who becomes Oenomaus and not have that spoiled or ruined.
So we'll talk about this in the next episode, but I assume then that next episode when Batiatus uses the name Oenomaus, is that the first? Assuming you hadn't watched the prequel, is that the first time you would have heard the name?
Yeah,
right.
I think that is.
I feel a little weird then that they didn't belabor that, but whatever. We'll talk about that next episode. Crixus is about to be whipped, and Onomaeus tells him to embrace the pain. That's the only way you're going to survive this. Yeah, and so Dottore is like whipping the gladiator that he has the most reverence for. And Batiatus is up on the balcony, and he pulls out the head of Hector. Hector is the guard who had his face burned by Spartacus a couple episodes ago, and he's the guard that Naevia had stolen the jail key from so that she could go and fuck Crixus. And Batiatus just has him beheaded. He just pulls out his head. Now this is another thing that doesn't necessarily make sense to me, because Hector was not a slave. He was a free man. He was an employee. And Batiatus is just like, hey, all of you Roman soldiers here that are supposed to like uphold everything, I just murdered this guy. I'm expecting you to keep this on the down low. So I don't know what the Roman laws were regarding murder of other free Romans, but Batiatus just confessed to that, and no one gives a shit. I don't know if this was somehow actually allowed per Roman law, or if people have just learned not to fuck with Batiatus at this point. Regardless, Batiatus holds this motherfucker's head up and is like, I killed him because he fucked with me. And he goes on this speech basically saying, I have been too nice to all of you. I have let all of you gladiators and slaves get away with too much shit, and that ends now. From now on, I am the master, you are the slaves, you will be reminded of that at all fucking times. And so then all of the gladiators are taken back to their gladiator cells. They are escorted there by Glaber's troops, who treat them like shit. And so the final scene is Spartacus and Agron and Duro.
No. There's one big moment there. Remember, this is where Batiatus tells Xena he knows that she's been banging Crixus.
I want to come back to that, because that's I think that's probably the most interesting part of this episode.
Okay.
So the final shot of Spartacus then is Spartacus, Agron, and Duro, and Agron and Duro are like, I can't handle this anymore. I don't want to be here. Because these Roman assholes are just fucking with us now, and Spartacus is like, oh, about that whole not being here thing, and so this is actually the moment where Spartacus, the rebellion leader, starts. But going back to the end of Batiatus' speech, Crixus has been whipped. Batiatus has made his speech to the other slaves, letting them know, hey, nice guy Batiatus, who only existed in Batiatus' head, is not going to be making any more appearances. And then he turns to Xena and is basically like, I expect you to stop fucking Crixus now. And Xena gets this look on her face like, holy shit, you knew about this? And Batiatus is like, of course I knew about it. I know everything that happens. But
he's like, it's an insult to me that you even thought I didn't know. I love that.
Yeah, he doesn't care that she was banging Crixus. He's more insulted by the fact that she thought she kept a secret.
Yeah, he's like, whatever makes you happy, that's fine. I bang slaves. It's not a big deal.
He says that I let it go because it made you happy and didn't cause any trouble for me, but now it has caused trouble for me, and so you will stop that now. Your only goal now is to give birth to my child. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. Batiatus knows two things right now. He knows Xena is pregnant, and he knows that Xena is fucking Crixus. Is Batiatus so egotistical that he just believes it can't be anyone else's baby aside from his? Or does he not actually care if the kid's his? He just wants a baby to give his name to.
I think it's that one. I think because his whole thing is about status, right? He wants status, and in order to get status, you have to have a male heir, and I don't think he gives a fuck who it came from. Just that he's got one, and he can say, "Hey, this is my kid." There's no paternity test back then. I'm with Team Matt. I think
that's my reading of it.
Well, there you go. That's it. That's it for episode, I guess, 12? Thoughts? I thought this was another fantastic episode. We keep saying that. There aren't too many loser episodes once you get to the pit in this series.
once you get about past episode 4, there might be. I think there's like 1 or 2 episodes where like, oh, this one was okay. There's like that's as bad as it gets. It's just kind of being, oh, this one was fine. It's not as good as like the last one. So it's just nothing but great episodes. This whole show. How is it that this show is not much more like in the cultural zeitgeist than it deserves? Like it deserves to be. How is it that it's not?
I think it's because it's overly violent and overly sexual. And I think that turns a lot of people off.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha. But this came out way before Game of Thrones. Maybe the culture wasn't ready for it yet.
I don't know. I think because Game of Thrones was a pretty. I think Game of Thrones started up about the 2nd season or so of this show. I think.
Really?
Game of Thrones also was based on an incredibly popular book series as well.
I remember when Game of Thrones first came out, people bitched and complained about all the sex and nudity in it, and eventually in later seasons they cut that way down. Spartacus, I don't think ever really stops with the naked ladies.
Game of Thrones premiered in April 2011.
Wow.
Yeah, it ran for a long time.
That is crazy. I would never have thought that. I thought it was maybe a 2014, 2015.
No, that show had 6-7 seasons to it. I know this because I've never seen a single episode of Game of Thrones, so this is not me shitting on the show. But I know that Frank was a big Game of Thrones fan, and he kept telling me, it's like, oh, you like Spartacus, you'll love Game of Thrones. I was like, maybe I'll check it out someday. And this is completely side tangent. I know that the ending of Game of Thrones sucks, so there's no point in me watching it It's kind of like when I found out how Dexter has a terrible ending. I've never seen the last 2 episodes of Dexter. I always stop at a certain point because it just gets so bad. But that's a side tangent, complete side tangent.
Spartacus came out January 2010, so a year and a half into Spartacus, Game of Thrones came out.
That's wild. I wouldn't have thought that. But yeah, I definitely I love this episode. I really love Asher in this episode, and even in the next one as well. I think
he is so terrible in a great way.
He's so.
And you all doubted me. You all when I said he was one of my favorite characters, you were all like, Asher? How could you? It's like because he's a great fucking bad guy, and great bad guys are hard to come by.
He's good. He's good.
Asher's mortal enemy is Crixus. Maybe you can make some arguments for Onomaus or even Navia in future seasons, but Asher's enemy from the beginning of Gods of the Arena to now has been Crixus, and Asher learned exactly how to cause the most pain to Crixus, and it is glorious in a horrible way.
Well, I love when he's talking to Crixus there after he's going back up to the villa, whatever, and he's like, everything I have, I owe it all to you. It's just like, it's so deliciously evil. Oh.
So Crixus thinks that he's won. Crixus is like high and mighty. Oh yeah, you're gonna go sleep there. You're gonna leave the area where the men sleep. And Asher's like, I'm gonna be just fine, motherfucker. You just wait.
Be sleeping with your woman, Crixus.
I'm in a hurry to take your bitch. Is all he's thinking in his head.
Excellent episode, and it just tees up the finale too. It's just like, oh god, the finale. Whew, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the finale. But you guys have any other comments about this episode? I mean, it's amazing in my opinion.
Yeah, I really just want to talk about the finale. So
okay.
This episode was great. I'm ready for next week.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, check back next Thursday on Outpost Unknown as we watch the finale of the first full season of Spartacus, Blood and Sand. I believe it's called Kill Them All. I think that's what it's called. Spoiler. We'll see what happens.
God, Matt, you just spoiled it. Jesus Christ.
We'll see you next Thursday.